You are listening to stories at Chubby Orange Audio. Wish you an enjoyable listening experience. My grandfather owns a funeral home. My grandmother is a spiritual medium. My father is a forensic doctor. My mother is a corpse makeup specialist. And I am a famous actress known for scandals. During a live variety show, in the morning when I was digging soil to plant trees, I unearthed a murder weapon. In the afternoon when I was fishing, I caught a female corpse. Just that night, the production team had changed the show's name from Back to Simple Days to Crime Scene. On the first day of filming, the production team arranged for everyone to plant trees by drawing lots to form groups. Under subtle manipulation, Sean Mitchell and I were assigned to the same group. Meanwhile, his on-screen co-star and rumored girlfriend Susan Hayes was assigned to the same group as comedian Vincent Parker. Last week, news spread online that I was seducing Sean despite being rejected, but I continued to bother him. Today there was another such scene. Honestly, the production team really understands what the audience wants to see. The effect was exactly what the director expected. When the group results were announced, a flood of comments filled the entire screen. Kylie Chen is trying to get attention from our guy again. Why are some people grown up but don't know what independence means? Oh, separate these two quickly. Kylie, how can you be so shameless? Poor Susan. Does Kylie know shame? Always wanting to be the third wheel. Lockable. That scumbag playing both sides, taking advantage of me unsuccessfully, got cursed by me a few times. Then became angry and immediately threw dirty water on me. If it weren't for the production team offering quite decent compensation, do people think I would agree to participate? There are also people who truly understand what happened. None other than Susan Hayes, a kind and pure person in the public's eyes. When we arrived at the tree planting location arranged by the production team, I looked toward the southwest and couldn't help but frown. That place seemed to emit a faint murderous aura. I picked up my spade and walked straight there. Sean Mitchell hurriedly followed behind, building his image as a gentleman with high emotional intelligence. In front of the camera lens, he showed none of the harassment he displayed when bothering me. He pretended to be considerate, saying, "I'll dig the hole, and you can be responsible for watering." I was too lazy to pay attention to him. Timing the exact moment and position of the murderous aura, I thrust the spade straight down. Seeing this, Sean sighed helplessly, moved to a position about 2 meters away from me, and started digging his hole. I was quite strong, and in a short time had dug a hole about half a meter deep. At this point Sean approached to seek his presence. "Kylie, the depth is enough now, just need to widen it a bit." The production team just explained and gave detailed instructions about the tree planting activity. I'm not an idiot, of course I knew about this, but my current goal wasn't to plant trees, so I continued digging deeper. The murderous aura was becoming increasingly dense. This meant I was about to dig up something. Sean stepped beside me and said, "Kylie, that's enough, let me help you widen this hole." I pushed away the obstructing Sean, keeping my eyes and ears alert. "You just dig your own hole. Worry less about mine." If my previous behavior only made the audience dislike me, pushing Sean away would certainly make them hate me. In a short time, the comment section was flooded with vulgar insults. "What the hell is Kylie? Sean didn't care what you were doing and proactively came to help. You're there with a sour face pushing people. I'm also convinced. Why doesn't Kylie just die already? Now what kind of people can make a living in entertainment? Did someone in Kylie's family just die? The show just started and she's already sour-faced, showing attitude to whom?" The cameraman was only afraid the discussion wasn't heated enough. The camera angle moved close, up to the just hurt Sean, then moved close up to me, and finally to the hole I was digging. Just as the camera turned toward the hole, the sound of impact and the resistance force of the spade made me certain I had struck something. I used greater force to lift that thing to the surface. It was a Swiss Army knife covered in blood. "What's that?" Kylie Chen, the male singer from the adjacent group, ran over to join the fun, about to touch the blade. "Don't touch it." I stopped him. "It's covered in blood and buried very deep. It's very likely a murder weapon." "That can't be. How is that possible?" Tyler fell silent before my serious expression. "Haha, Kylie is just joking, right?" Susan approached with a sweet smile, explaining. I was speechless, giving her a look, took out a handkerchief from my pocket, picked up the knife, and stored it carefully. The murderous aura on this knife was too strong. People with healthy constitutions who touch this knife will encounter bad luck for a period of time, while those with weak constitutions, if they touch it, I'm afraid they'll fall seriously ill. I plan to neutralize the murderous aura on the knife before handing it to the police. Speechless. Really loves to act. If it's already a murder weapon, why not give it to the police? Is her phone out of credit so she can't call? Lackable. Randomly digging up a knife and calling it a murder weapon, then putting it in her own pocket. Looks no different from a beggar. Susan is too kind. She's even helping this troublemaker resolve everything smoothly. Truly worthy of being my beloved good girl. The most beautiful and kind person in this entertainment industry. The director saw the lively comment section of the live stream. His eyes lit up brightly, knowing he had chosen the right factor. The show would have very high ratings and discussion levels. Due to this incident, the tree planting progress was delayed significantly. Fortunately, I caught up afterward and didn't fall to last place. Lunch was distributed according to rankings. Sean and I received one meat dish and one vegetable dish. Since this was everyone's first meal after arriving here, it would be provided by the production team. But during the subsequent filming process, everyone would need to solve their own food problems. Hearing this from the director, the guests began discussing with sad faces. Huh? Where do we find food? Are there any restaurants nearby? Or should we? We don't have a penny. So what can we eat at restaurants? I see the adjacent field has vegetables planted, and the storage room also has fishing rods, so food and drink won't be a problem. We can think of ways to trade a little with the villagers when needed. Does anyone know how to cook? I only know how to boil water. Everyone fell silent for a moment. Indeed, the food problem was very easy to solve. After all, this place was surrounded by mountains and rivers. But if no one knew how to cook, it would really be a problem. Just blanch vegetables and add a little salt, but that's not effective with fish. At this point, Susan raised her hand. I know a little, not much. Let me do it. Hearing this, everyone breathed a sigh of relief, continuously praising Susan. Even the comment section praised her to the skies. Before mealtime, while washing hands, I purified the murderous aura on the knife and put it back in my suitcase. Who would have known that just 7-8 minutes after I returned, there was only a little food left. Where my seat originally was, Susan was now sitting. Her bowl was full of delicious food, a satisfied, happy smile clearly visible on her face. When she saw me approach, her eyes showed glee, then revealed a worried and helpless expression. Kylie, why did you come back? I didn't know how to answer her question either. How about you explain to me why you're sitting in my seat? Eating my portion first, let's see how that goes. Susan's group was the last group. The food distributed by the production team was plain porridge and pickled vegetables. Sean stood up, standing in front of Susan. Sorry, you were gone so long. We thought you weren't satisfied with the food and didn't plan to eat. My portion is still untouched. You can eat it if you want. If you don't eat lunch, how will you have strength this afternoon? Kylie's portion, I also haven't eaten much if you don't mind. Just as I took the chopsticks and food tray, Susan fell silent. She couldn't hide the surprise on her face. Perhaps she didn't expect that I would actually plan to eat her leftover food. Of course I mind. After saying this, I poured the rice into Buddy's food bowl. Susan's expression became even more surprised. Oh, by the way, Buddy is a small stray dog that the production team deliberately bought from the villagers. Susan was extremely angry, but in front of the camera she tried to restrain her anger, only showing red, rimmed eyes full of grievance. Sean glanced at me with reproachful eyes, then held Susan tightly, gently comforting her. Is Kylie crazy? She won't eat it herself, won't let Susan eat it either. Gives it to the dog. Who is she trying to humiliate? Dogs can't eat human food. Doesn't she even know this basic knowledge? Didn't graduate middle school. Bitch from the movies to real life. I'm fed up with this troublemaker. Susan is so pitiful. Finally, Sean also took her inside to adjust her mood. I calmly sat down and ate Susan's porridge. In a position hidden from the camera, Vincent winked at me and gave a thumbs up. It seems quite a few people in this industry know about the situation between Susan and Sean. In the afternoon, everyone took equipment and went to the lake. Among the guests, only film star William Wang, over 50 years old, knew how to fish. But when it comes to fishing, besides technique, luck is also an important factor. People often say beginners have beginner's luck when fishing. Sadly, Things turned out much worse than expected. A group of people had been sitting there for over 2 hours, but still hadn't caught a single fish. Vincent couldn't help but ask the director. "Director Quinn, are there fish in this lake? Tell me the truth." Director was also puzzled. Clearly before filming the show, they had specially bought 2,000 kilos of live fish from the market and released them into the lake. Could it be that despite doing this much, these 8 people were unlucky enough not to catch a single fish? "There's movement," someone shouted excitedly. Everyone looked toward Sean. Sean knew this was a good opportunity to perform, so he stared intently at the lake's surface, waited a few seconds, then lifted his fishing rod. A carp weighing about 3 to 4 pounds leaped out of the water, making everyone cheer with joy. Sean hid his pride very well, humbly saying that it was all thanks to the good teaching of his predecessors. Susan brought the fish bucket back first. After sitting there for another half hour, I suddenly felt something was wrong. My heart was pounding, intuition told me something was about to happen. At this moment my fishing rod bent down. Vincent sitting beside me immediately whispered excitedly, "Kylie, you're about to catch a fish too." But I knew it wasn't a fish, because the force was too strong, bending the entire fishing rod to its limit. But there were no signs of struggle. I tried to lift the fishing rod but couldn't. Vincent ran over to help. Under our combined efforts, the thing caught on the hook gradually surfaced. Red like clothing. "Vincent, try to hold on tight." After saying this, I let go and stepped into the lake. Seeing this, many people also gathered around telling me to quickly return to shore. I swam toward that red object. When I got close, my previous suspicion was confirmed. What I had caught wasn't clothing but a female corpse wearing red. Someone on shore also realized something was wrong, asking with a trembling voice, What is that? Could it be arranged by the production team? Maybe to scare us or some hidden task?" The audience thought the same. The production team staff looked at each other, not knowing when this arrangement appeared. Only the director's face turned pale, because he had no such intention at all. The female corpse was very heavy. I had to use a lot of strength to pull and carry it to shore. Vincent wanted to help but I refused. When I brushed aside the corpse's hair, I was surprised to discover it was Victoria Wang. Even if the body was swollen, I would never mistake her identity. Victoria, my rival and also William Wang's only daughter. At the same time, she was also Sean's unofficial girlfriend. The scene became quiet for a long time with no one speaking, only the comment section quickly scrolled non-stop after a period of silence. "Victoria, is this Victoria? I've never heard she would participate in this show. I heard Victoria was filming in City B recently. How could she come here to participate in a variety show? Must just be someone who looks similar. Isn't this supposed to be a variety show? What's the purpose of such a sudden scene? Am I the only one who feels like this is a real corpse? Hey, upstairs, obviously the production team wants to add more drama for Kylie. Otherwise would she dare to go into the river to retrieve a corpse? Another effort to build her image. Little A. William pushed through the crowd, staggering toward the female corpse. Eyes at Little A. He knelt beside the female corpse, hands trembling, not daring to touch. Finally the director reacted in time and shouted loudly, "Quick, turn off the cameras. Turn off the live stream. Turn off everything, call the police." Staff hurriedly turned off equipment. When the live broadcast was cut off, the audience finally realized this wasn't a script but someone had really died. The deceased was famous actress Victoria Wang. However, just half a minute later, the screen was turned back on, cameras focused on Victoria's body. The high-resolution cameras recorded her tragic condition in detail. At this moment everyone's attention was focused on the female corpse. No one noticed one thing: William Wang had fainted from grief and was carried aside by staff to rest. There were no heavy objects tied to the body. Based on the degree of swelling, it could be predicted that it should have floated to the lake surface long ago. My heart sank. It wasn't by chance that I caught Victoria's corpse. It was because she wanted me to do so. She here naturally referred to Victoria. In such hot weather, wearing jeans was understandable, but Victoria would never pair it with such an aesthetically unpleasing long-sleeved turtleneck shirt, buttoned all the way up to the highest button, covering the neck tightly. Moreover, although the Swiss Army knife I dug up was full of murderous aura, the blade was too short and the tip structure wasn't suitable for stabbing, not suitable for stabbing someone to death, only for slicing the throat. The exposed part of Victoria's neck had no wounds, and her clothes weren't torn either. Kylie, what are you doing? Victoria is already dead. Do you want to torment her more? Sean stepped forward aggressively, grabbing my arm that was about to examine the corpse again. I stood up and carefully observed Sean's expression. The romantic relationship between Victoria and Sean was very secret. If I didn't have yin-yang eyes and the ability to see ghosts and communicate with spirits, I probably wouldn't know so clearly. When Sean was paired with Victoria, he was just an 18th-tier supporting actor, but Victoria at that time, as a second-generation star, had already taken leading roles in many major works. To put it bluntly, the reason Sean, despite his terrible acting skills, was still so popular was entirely due to the human and material support from Victoria, besides that handsome face. I had many times mocked Victoria to her face, calling her blind, even implying that Sean was playing both sides, but Victoria was an extremely devoted person. Not only did she not break up with Sean, she was even considering leaving the entertainment industry to marry him. If we talk about who the killer of Victoria was, Sean had now achieved success and no longer needed support, plus he had a relationship with Susan, the number one suspect. When was the last time you contacted Victoria? I stared at Sean. Sean frowned. The sadness on his face didn't seem fake. What do you mean? Are you suspecting me? That's right, I suspect you because Victoria's death benefits you the most. What about you? You and Little A have always been at odds. Recently you were even competing directly with Little A for the leading role in director Kwan's new film. Aren't you a suspect too? Hearing these words, others looked at me with suspicious eyes as if remembering something. Sean added, the Swiss knife you dug up this morning. You said it was a murder weapon, didn't you? How did you know? When the police arrive, I'll naturally have an explanation, you don't need to worry about that. Me too. My conversation with Sean immediately created a huge wave on the internet. What's going on? Is it real or fake in the end? Is Victoria really dead? Kylie said Victoria's death benefits Sean the most. What does that mean? The amount of information is so large it's burning my CPU. Are Sean and Victoria boyfriend and girlfriend? Before there were people online spreading rumors, but I thought it was just gossip. Could it be true? Everyone don't misunderstand. Sean's girlfriend is Susan. During the meal, Sean even hugged Susan tightly to comfort her. Shen is right, why would Kylie come forward to question? She's also very suspicious. The person is already dead, why are they still arguing? Really speechless. Person who benefits most Sean Victoria's death Kylie's suspicion. Various hashtags successively became trending, contrary to the excitement online. After Sean and I stopped talking, the scene became quiet for a long time. Most people silently waited for police to arrive. The production team lowered their voices and anxiously discussed countermeasures. But 1 hour passed, 2 hours passed, 3 hours passed. Police still hadn't arrived. Staff called police again but discovered communication signals had been interrupted. Not only that, the internet had also crashed. The sudden strangeness made everyone except me feel restless. Director, it's getting dark. Look, the assistant director cautiously asked. Director gritted his teeth and said, go back to the rooms first. Wait for police to come, then we'll continue. While staff were packing up equipment, they finally discovered something was wrong. The live stream. The live stream is still ongoing. The shout startled everyone. Those who had just calmed down broke out in cold sweat again. Clearly they had turned off all equipment and the internet had crashed. So how could the live stream still continue? After half an hour of trying every possible way to turn off equipment, nothing worked. Equipment kept running despite depleted batteries. At this point no one could deceive themselves anymore. Those with weak psychological quality had already collapsed and were crying. Staying here isn't a solution. Let's go back first. Director rubbed his face and said warily. The entire group returned in silence. William used all his strength to carry Victoria's body. Everyone avoided him, let alone stepping forward to help. When they reached the accommodation, William didn't bring the body into the room, but went straight to the storage room. All these abnormal things happened after I brought Victoria's body to shore. Anyone with a brain knew something had happened. Susan heard sounds from the kitchen and came out, wearing a warm smile very inappropriate for the situation. Why is everyone back so late? I've already prepared the fish, very delicious. Does everyone want to fill their stomachs a bit first? Then she looked around and asked confusedly, where's the fish? Didn't everyone catch more fish? Fish. When thinking of the scene of fish and corpse in the same lake, many people began dry heaving. Although their stomachs were rumbling with hunger, they had no appetite. What's wrong with you? Stomach? Susan asked worriedly. A staff member pulled her aside to explain. If Sean was the first suspect, then Susan was definitely the second suspect. I watched her, not missing any expression on her face. Susan's face first showed confusion, then surprise and joy, quickly turning to sadness. Finally, everything turned to nausea. She ran to one side and vomited violently. It was real vomiting. Leftover undigested food, reeking with a terrible stench. Susan vomited for a long time, even vomiting bile. As a chef, at least she had to taste the food. If Susan knew Victoria died in the lake, perhaps she wouldn't eat fish caught from that lake. My suspicion of Susan being the murderer decreased by 2 points. Although still live streaming, no one paid attention to the show anymore. Director had smoked an entire pack of cigarettes and made the decision to change the show's original name from Back to Simple Days to Crime Scene, so that when everything returned to normal, they could find some reason to cover up. Not filming anymore. This idea was rejected when someone discovered they couldn't turn off the cameras. After all, no one wanted to risk going against Victoria's wishes. Dinner was also handled perfunctorily. Of course, no one wanted to eat the fish soup Susan made, so they threw away both soup and pot. Only 2 female guests, Susan and I. That night when sleeping, she put on an act of letting bygones be bygones, indicating she wanted to sleep with me. I didn't refuse, quickly closed my eyes and fell asleep, while beside me Susan kept tossing and turning like cooking pancakes. 3 a.m., the time of day when yang energy is weakest and yin energy heaviest. I opened my eyes. Susan wasn't in the room. She wasn't the type with courage to go out alone at night when such a thing had happened. I put on shoes and went outside. It was only September, but as soon as I stepped out the door, I had to wrap myself up from the cold. Outside had formed a thin layer of frost, seeping through gaps into human skin and bones. The cameras placed everywhere all emitted red light, like spying eyes in the night. Susan stood with her back to the door, about 3 to 5 meters away. She was barefoot, turned her head to look at me once, her eyes completely white, then she turned back and stepped lightly forward. The number of live stream viewers at this time was much less than during the day. Suzanne seems a bit unusual. Where does she want to go? It's too dark, can't the production team turn on more lights? I'm getting goosebumps. I don't dare watch anymore, I'm exiting first. The already small audience became even smaller. Susan was possessed by Victoria. I used my phone as a flashlight, keeping a distance neither too close nor too far while following her. She walked to Buddy's doghouse. Buddy cowered in the corner, tail between legs, body shaking like a leaf blower, looking up at Victoria with teary eyes. It smelled the strong fishy scent, so scared it wet itself. Victoria didn't approach but stood straight. Suddenly 2 streams of bloody tears flowed down. Ghosts only shed bloody tears when extremely emotional. Are there any clues about your death here? I asked. Victoria gently shook her head. Do you remember what happened before you died? Who killed you? This time Victoria was silent for a while, finally pointing at Buddy. I was confused. There was no way Buddy could have killed Victoria. Before I could understand, Victoria had already turned back in the direction she came from. She stopped at the storage room door and stood there for a long time. Inside was her father and her body. William lost his wife very early. He didn't remarry, gave up most of his work to focus on raising his daughter. When his daughter wanted to enter the entertainment industry, William used his many years of connections to pave the way for her. Regarding the romantic relationship between Victoria and Sean, William had opposed it fiercely from the beginning. Victoria had ostensibly broken up with Sean, but in reality she had never cut off contact with him. To this day I still don't understand what magic Sean had could make the proud Victoria so devoted to him. Who's outside? William's vigilant voice came from inside the room. Susan's body went limp. I stepped forward 2 steps to catch her. Victoria had left. William opened the door, frowning. It's not safe at night. Why did you 2 come outside? Suzanne was sleepwalking out here. I didn't mention her being possessed by Victoria. William glanced at the barefoot Susan lying in my arms and said, "Let me help you carry little Susan back to the room." "Thank you, senior, no need to trouble you. I can handle it myself." Being an actress, Susan wasn't heavy. As an adult woman, I could easily carry her. William said nothing more and returned to his room. The next morning, a scream woke everyone up. Susan's assistant Helen Wong was dead. With all the abnormal things that had happened, everyone's first thought was that the female ghost was taking lives. But after a preliminary autopsy examination, I knew Helen's death was caused by humans. Helen's face was tense, her face and lips purple, earlobes flushed red. These were all typical signs of cyanide poisoning. I didn't know if someone wanted to take revenge for Victoria or was taking advantage of the situation to settle personal grudges. The atmosphere became more tense. But after a long time passed, police still hadn't arrived. Director had no choice but to assign 2 staff members to drive to the nearby town to report to police. The car drove out for 2 hours then returned. The staff got out with pale faces. Outside is foggy and misty. We couldn't see the road clearly, so after driving for a while we had to turn back. Ghosts leading the way, demons showing the path. Now we're really screwed. Now we can't contact the outside world. We can't get out, and people outside probably can't get in either. This meant all of us were trapped here, waiting for the female ghost to take lives one by one. There's no other way to connect with the outside world. Live stream. Heaven and earth are vast, life is important, don't care about anything else anymore. Tyler ran in front of the camera. We're currently in Qing City, West Province. Anyone nearby, please help us call police, okay? Tyler looked at the comments and explained, "This isn't a joke, and it's not a prank on anyone. We really need help. We're trapped here now, hope everyone can help." A moment later, Tyler excitedly shouted, "We've contacted the outside. Someone watching has helped call police." Everyone felt relieved hearing this. Only one person's expression had remained dark from beginning to end, Sean. I didn't tell everyone that Helen was murdered. First, because people might not believe it. Second, because saying it might lead to mutual suspicion and even conflict. Now wasn't the time to test human nature. We can't just sit here and wait. I think there must be some reason we're trapped here. Director, the most authoritative person at the moment, spoke slowly. I think everyone will have speculations in their minds. So today we'll talk to each other frankly. With the situation we're facing now, police may not be able to rescue us. We should also think of ways to save ourselves. As soon as these words were spoken, everyone became noisy. Director, how should we save ourselves? Right, just give your opinion. We'll follow your lead. Director hesitated for a moment then said, "The cause of this is Miss Victoria. I guess one of us killed her. She's trapping us here for revenge." In an instant, everyone's eyes focused on Susan. The reason was simple, the first person to die was her assistant. According to ghost revenge patterns, this matter was definitely related to Susan. Susan hid in Sean's chest, only showing half her face, pitifully saying, "It wasn't me, I didn't harm Sister Victoria at all." Alright, there's no evidence now, so everyone don't suspect little Susan. Although Director said this, his look at Susan was no different from others. We're all people working in the same industry, so let's share whatever information everyone has in hand. Director lit a cigarette, took a deep breath, then exhaled a thick cloud of smoke. His face and expression behind the smoke were hard to discern. It's come to this point for the survival of the remaining people. I hope everyone won't hide anything and tell the truth. At this moment, the live stream viewership increased rapidly. Many people flocked to the room to watch the drama. Director looked once then suggested, "How about this? I'll give everyone 15 minutes to return to their rooms and disguise themselves." After 15 minutes, everyone gathered again and spoke in turns. I couldn't help but secretly admire, "You still have to be an old fox." Disguising didn't help much with the people present at the scene, but it could significantly reduce the possibility of being caught by fans online for their statements. I heard Miss Wang's health wasn't good during filming her last movie. She lost her temper quite a few times, very different from before. That girl must have a boyfriend. I heard he's also a top star, probably Sheen. Half a month before Sean was filming, Sister Wang came to his dressing room. Looked very strange, probably the two had argued. Although Victoria and Kylie were rivals, I thought their relationship was okay, never saw them argue. But every time Susan met Victoria, I heard her making sarcastic remarks about Miss Wang. I always found it strange. Susan is just a second-tier star. How dare she talk to Victoria like that? Victoria always endured it. I have a friend who just last week witnessed this situation. In the nearly 2-hour presentation, much content was repeated, but only a few pieces of important information had certain value. The key point was what happened to Victoria that led to her sudden change in condition. Was it because she discovered something between Susan and Seun? But the timeline didn't match. I noticed William's face looked worse than ever, especially when he looked at Sean, his jaw tense to the limit. I thought he was angry because his daughter was still involved with that scoundrel Sean, but Sean looked up and glanced quickly at William. There was no remorse in that look, only calmness, as if he had anticipated this. Then he stood up and confessed shamelessly. Yes, little A and I were dating. During that period I cheated, so she fell into an unstable state. You're talking nonsense, we were never in that kind of relationship, just a fan-pulling stunt. Susan hurriedly explained. Susan, it's come to this point, don't lie to everyone anymore. At first I also said I already had a girlfriend, but you said you didn't care. Shut up, you're talking nonsense. I don't know, I don't have that. Before Helen's death and Sean's testimony, Susan's defense seemed light as feathers, worthless. Almost everyone cast suspicion on Susan and Sean. Director suddenly said, Little Kylie, didn't you find a Swiss Army knife? I held up the sealed plastic bag containing the Swiss Army knife for everyone to see. After questioning, no one had seen this knife. Disappointment was evident on everyone's faces. Someone muttered, how can there be such a coincidence? But I was certain this knife was related to Victoria's death. Everything returned to square one. We could only handle lunch, then think of more solutions. Buddy happily wagged his tail and ran to the table begging for food. Thinking of Victoria's actions last night, I picked up Buddy and carefully observed him. This puppy was about 3 months old and wore a collar. This collar was just an ordinary collar, nothing special. I stood up and went to his den, pushed aside the mat to reveal the soil underneath. After testing the ground by pressing, I began digging with bare hands. The soil was very soft. I quickly dug up something. In the dirt was a diamond bracelet, looking very out of place. It was ice cold, making me shiver when I touched it. I had seen this bracelet on Victoria's wrist many times. After careful observation, I discovered this wasn't a simple bracelet. A tiny tracking device was embedded in the back of the main diamond. It seemed everything was more complicated than I had predicted. I found William eating alone at the storage room door and carefully asked, Senior, may I examine your daughter's body? Due to family tradition, I also have some understanding in this area. William's expression was very complex. Keely, can't you let little A leave peacefully? Sean suddenly appeared, standing between me and William. I ignored Sean and turned to one side, waiting for William's reaction. Little A said, You're very special. William put down his bowl and chopsticks. I was stunned, not understanding what the word, special, meant. And what William meant by saying this now. Can you see little A? Is she here now? My scalp tightened. I didn't expect Victoria knew I had yin-yang eyes. After hesitating, I honestly answered, She's indeed here. Sean's body trembled. William excitedly stood up, pacing back and forth, muttering, I knew it, I knew it. Then he eagerly asked, Can you let me meet her and say a few words? I shook my head. Looking at William's graying hair and suddenly hunched back, I felt some pity and said, If you have something to say, when I see her I'll pass on the message. William's eyes brightened then slowly dimmed. After a long while, he said hoarsely, I want to apologize, please apologize to her for me. I nodded then took out the bracelet. I found this nearby, it should be your daughter's, right? William unconsciously looked toward Sean. Sean looked at the bracelet, his eyes full of bloodshot veins. He took the bracelet and examined it gently. At this moment I was certain that Sean loved Victoria very much. I'm sorry, I can't let you examine the body. I can't get over that. William sighed, preparing to turn and enter the storage room. It seems I was right. Now I just need one more clue to connect everything together. Victoria had deliberately shown me where this bracelet was. After saying this, I left without waiting for the other two to react. I pulled the panicking Susan, who was hiding in the crowd, into a room, jokingly saying, Susan, you'd better tell the truth. This morning when you woke up, you also discovered something wrong, didn't you? Actually, you almost died last night. Susan became even more frightened after I scared her a few times, but she stubbornly said, It really wasn't me. I never hurt Victoria. The person who died yesterday was your assistant. So what do you think, who will die after tonight? I asked gently. Susan's face immediately turned pale. After a long while, she said tremblingly, I really didn't harm her. I just accidentally discovered something. At this point, Susan looked around, confirmed there were no surveillance cameras in the room, then lowered her voice. A few years ago, Victoria got drunk and someone filmed a video. That group wanted to use this video to blackmail Victoria, but the financial backer behind Sean suppressed everything. I was shocked, emotions mixed for a moment. I didn't know how I should feel. At the same time, the connection of the entire story had been successfully linked. I really didn't harm Victoria. I just used this to blackmail Sean into doing some publicity stunts with me. You also know how famous he was then. I really had no other choice then. I didn't hear the rest of her words. Regardless of Susan's purpose, she had done wrong. There was also a big loophole in Susan's words, her assistant Helen. If Susan was really innocent as she claimed, Helen wouldn't have had to die. I also didn't believe that just this could threaten Sean. There's signal now. An excited shout came from outside. I took out my phone, looked at the 5G in the upper right corner and breathed a sigh of relief. Susan across from me showed a regretful expression. She immediately frowned threateningly. I repeat once more, I never harmed Victoria. If you dare spread what I said, you're finished. Then she rubbed her eyes until they reddened and went outside with a grieved expression. Within less than 10 minutes, 4 police cars had arrived. Thank you everyone for helping. We finally met the police. Tyler waved at the camera to signal his safety. Safety is good. Oh my little Tyler, you must have been so scared. Boo-hoo. Police arrived. They should be able to find out who the killer is, right? I hope the bad guys will be brought to justice. I think the culprits are Sean and Susan. Let them go to prison. Do you all think there are really ghosts in this world? Is this blatant exaggeration by the production team or a supernatural event? Over 10-20 people got out of the police cars, including a man in his 20s. Handsome appearance. He wore a robe with hair in a high bun secured with a wooden hairpin. My gaze lingered on him for just a few more seconds, and he quickly noticed, looking toward me. My sixth sense told me that the police finding this place was directly related to him. Before police began investigating, Sean stepped forward and voluntarily admitted to being the one who poisoned Helen. This move shocked everyone. Fortunately, the live streaming equipment was turned off at this point, otherwise it would cause another media uproar. I gave the Swiss Army knife to police and, after careful consideration, decided not to tell them my deductions about the 2 cases. The dead were gone, but some things would never disappear from the hearts of the living. Having witnessed too much selfishness and indifference in human nature, why should I destroy this rare beauty? A few days later, I learned the police investigation results from the gossipy ghost girl. After autopsy, it was confirmed Victoria had been raped and murdered. Moreover, there were over 20 knife wounds of varying depths on her body. The cause of death was physical asphyxiation. Sean said he couldn't contact Victoria, so he relied on the tracking device in the bracelet. He found her body buried in the forest in the northern suburbs of the city. He didn't want his girlfriend's reputation to be ruined and criticized after her death, so he had bathed her clean and changed her clothes. As for why the body ended up in the lake where, back to simple days, was filmed, Sean explained that he had a suspect in mind, but the opponent was too powerful, so he could only use public opinion to amplify the matter, forcing police to bring the killer to justice. Sean revealed 4 names: Luke Brennan, a famous singer who claimed to love his wife, Nathan Cross, a diamond manager, David Zhang, a world-famous director, and Richard Zhao, a wealthy businessman in City B. Due to attention from all levels of society and pressure from the suspects, police were extremely busy. A week after Sean was arrested, Victoria's case still had no further progress. On the 8th day, a bloody incident occurred in City B that shocked the entire country. The bloody bodies of Luke Brennan, Nathan Cross, David Zhang and Richard Zhao were found in an unfinished building in the suburbs. William voluntarily called police and surrendered. When arrested by police, he was still smiling and looked very calm. During interrogation, William admitted he had also killed Helen, and Sean was just taking the blame for him. Susan's reputation plummeted. Online was flooded with criticism and boycotts against her. Her resources sharply decreased and her management company basically abandoned her. According to rumors, Susan developed mental problems, constantly suspecting someone wanted to harm her, staying locked in her house all day not daring to go out. The sentencing results for William and Sean were announced. William was sentenced to death for intentional murder, a serious crime. Sean deliberately concealed information leading to 4 deaths. He was considered an accomplice and sentenced to 7 years in prison. I visited both in prison. William refused, only Sean agreed to see me. I could hardly recognize him. In just over 10 days, Sean had become a completely different person, unkempt beard, sunken cheeks, vacant eyes. After sitting down, he was the first to apologize to me. I laughed when I realized what he was referring to. "You were trying to discredit me and help your girlfriend get the role in the secret film, weren't you?" Sean nodded and apologized to me again in a low voice. Thinking about him and Victoria, seeing he had lost the will to live, I said softly, "Actually, she hasn't reincarnated yet. She's living in that bracelet." Sean's eyes gradually brightened. He asked cautiously, "Really?" I nodded affirmatively. "You work hard to reform in prison, reduce your sentence, and when you get out, take her around to explore the world." Sean smiled gently, his gaze distant, beginning beautiful fantasies in his mind. Right. When I left the prison, outside was surrounded by reporters. They had heard the news and rushed over. The live variety show had helped me clear up a lot of negative information, but many people focused on my actions in the show, saying I didn't forget to stand out even in that situation. In the end, I couldn't provide even a little useful information. Camera flashes and cameras followed me continuously. I put on sunglasses and got into the security car. The car had shaken off the reporters and left the prison. Was Helen really killed by William? What exactly did Susan do? Why did they let her go? How could William, a man over 50, kill people in an unfinished building while police were still investigating the 4 men? These secrets would forever be buried in the hearts of those who knew the truth. This dark tale reveals how the pursuit of fame corrupts moral boundaries and human relationships. The entertainment industry's obsession with image over truth creates a toxic environment where exploitation thrives unchecked. Social media's instant judgment amplifies cruelty while protecting genuine perpetrators behind carefully crafted personas. The story demonstrates that secrets and manipulation inevitably lead to devastating consequences, not just for the guilty, but for innocent bystanders caught in the web of deception. Most importantly, it shows how unchecked power enables systematic abuse, while those seeking justice often resort to equally destructive methods, perpetuating cycles of violence rather than healing. Thank you for taking the time to listen to today's story. I truly appreciate your comments, feedback, and thoughts. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to support the channel. See you again in the next story.